Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to focus on how News24's own misinformation desk was found guilty by the Press Ombudsman of spreading misinformation. You can't make this up. You truly can't. Now, News24's misinformation or disinformation desk has been proven time and time again to actually spread a lot of falsehoods. We can just look at what they've constantly said about Julius Malema on 3 different occasions where they've tried to downplay his involvement in government, where they've said that he's never held a position of power when, well, he's a member of parliament, so clearly he does have power. And then them stating that he doesn't have any influence over policy, which clearly he does because he sits on committees in parliament that formulate policies. And then, of course, the one in which they state that he has no power in government, but yet he sits on a committee that elects judges for South Africa. So News24's disinformation desk is just there to tweak the facts enough to make it misinformation, and then they spread that. Now, the latest article that has now caused News24 to once again be exposed for their mis and disinformation is the following article. Alright, so here's the article. No, Akkerland boerdery wasn't expropriated without compensation. Owners sold it privately for 80 million rand. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but the case of Akkerland boerdery is often cited as one of South Africa's first white-owned farm seizures. It earned global press coverage, caused widespread controversy, and quietly disappeared. This is likely because despite being a complex and convoluted land claim saga, the owners sold the property in 2018 to a mining company for 80.5 million rand. Well, that was fake news. The Press Council has ruled in favor of SAI that took News24 to the Press Ombudsman. I will put the link to this outcome and to this report in the description below, and it will directly link you to the SAI website where this was published. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this, and I want you to go and read just how sneaky News24 actually was. But there's just a couple of things that I wanted to point out for you, just to show how absolutely atrocious News24 is when it comes to their fact-checking. So I've highlighted some of the things. So of importance was the following statement I invited a response on. Now, this was the Press Ombudsman that wanted clarity. The date of 4 of April 2018 being the effective date of expropriation arrived. Section 8 of the Expropriation Act reads, the ownership of property expropriated in terms of the provisions of this act shall, on date of expropriation, vest in the state. On that date, the farm became the property of the state by operation of law, regardless of what was still reflected at the deeds office. Because News24 is arguing that it was never expropriated without compensation. Well, here is the proof. Now, News24's response to this line was yes, meaning it agreed. I was informed at the informal hearing that this agreement was after News24 obtained its own legal advice, meaning News24 didn't obtain legal advice before that to clarify whether or not it was expropriated or not. So News24, when they published this article on their misinformation desk or disinformation desk, didn't actually even get a legal opinion before they published it. Meaning journalists and editors think they know more about the law than actual lawyers and attorneys and advocates. It says a lot, doesn't it? Let me just scroll to the next one that I found here. While it's true that Akkerland boerdery was not expropriated without compensation, insofar as anybody actually claimed this, it was most certainly expropriated. There we go. There we go. The entire News24's disinformation desk has just been thrown upside down because the Press Ombuds found that it was most certainly expropriated. Furthermore, the body of the article does not merely claim that the myth is that Akkerland was expropriated without compensation. It claims that there was no expropriation of any sort, which News24 also initially maintained in their submissions. During the informal meeting, News24 representatives said they did not have the court documents when writing the article and only obtained legal advice about the effect of the Expropriation Act now. It was advanced on behalf of News24 that it may be too technical to say the land was expropriated, even though it was eventually accepted by News24 that ownership vested with the state on the date of expropriation. I disagree that it is only a technical approach. So News24 didn't even actually get the court papers, but yet they wrote an entire piece on it. News24 emphasized that the state never took physical control over the property. That is correct, but it does not change the fact that the farms were indeed expropriated, belonged to the state for a period after the 4th of April 2018, and that Akkerland could stay on pending a legal challenge to the expropriation only because they approached the Land Claims Court on an urgent basis. Moreover, the loss of ownership by operation of law is not a technicality. The real consequence of expropriation is that the ex-owner has no right in that property anymore. If they do not litigate to reverse the position, it is the end of the matter. It is not unlike the better known and understood position with tax, pay now, dispute later. So they knew all of this and they still decided to go ahead with it. This is how sinister News24 is. The same holds true in this matter. In fact, perhaps even more so within the context that this is a debunking or fact-checking article purporting to set the record straight with all the relevant facts. News24's lack of access to court papers or legal advice at the time of writing the article is an explanation but no excuse. The article does not quote any legal expert or stakeholder in the matter. It simply purports to interpret legal issues for its readers and makes pronouncements that A, there was no expropriation, B, the process was not arbitrary, and C, what the absence of a recorded transfer at the deeds office means. It goes further. In its bid to counter an alleged narrative of some people who are not identified in the article, it leaves out all the aspects that may be considered controversial about the Akkerland matter. As remarked above, effective misinformation utilizes elements of truth. It is, in my view, impossible to debunk such misinformation by simply ignoring the elements of truth in misinformation. News24 served its readers by debunking some myths and failed its readers at the same time by creating a distortion of the full picture and even leaned towards innuendo. This is damning. In summary, I find News24 breached clause 1.1 of the press code by reporting that Akkerland Boerdery's property was not expropriated in 2018, which means that they were lying. News24 breached clause 1.2 of the press code by omitting material facts being Akkerland's urgent court action to remain on the property and the subsequent court order revesting ownership in Akkerland Boerdery before a private sale was concluded. Now, this is damning, people. This is complete and utter shaming of News24 and their editorial team, as well, of course, as News24's Disinformation, Misinformation Desk, and Andrew Thompson, that is the lead journalist for that little specific area. One thing I wanted to mention is, look how upset News24 is. As set out above, News24 applied for my recusal after the informal hearing. So the reason they wanted to recuse the Press Ombudsman here is because he used to work for a report, as far as I can tell, and that he was very close to this article about the Akkerland Boerdery. Now, the fact that News24 wanted to recuse him tells you everything that you need to know. Adriaan Basson, editor-in-chief, set out the grounds for the recusal application as follows. News24 has been made aware of certain facts after the informal hearing. The information is that I was employed as news editor of Report newspaper during August 2018 when that newspaper reported on Akkerland, and the complainant cited one of these articles written by journalist Johan Eybers in the complaint. So in essence, at the end, News24 wanted him recused because he was the editor of Report. So News24 is not only fighting the fact that they were clearly spreading misinformation, but after it became clear that this was going to come out, then they wanted to recuse the Press Ombudsman in this instance. How sinister, right? And the fact that you didn't even have the court papers when you reported on the Akkerland boerdery expropriation case. Like, how do you report and counter misinformation and disinformation when you don't have the facts yourself? This is how sinister and evil News24 is. And this clearly just once again illustrated that even though they proclaim to be the heroes of countering and fighting mis and disinformation, here's unequivocal proof that they themselves spread mis and disinformation. And the Press Council found the same. They found them guilty of breaching 1.1 and 1.2 of the Press Code, which is quite severe, specifically if you are talking about having an area where you want to counter mis and disinformation. So News24, Adriaan Basson and Andrew Thompson is once again just illustrating that they're not competent enough for the positions that they hold within News24. In actual fact, I would go further and say that it's time that the Press Ombuds must perhaps look at this News24 Dis and Misinformation Desk and perhaps ask News24 to shut it down because it's causing a lot of harm. Because this is once again another clear illustration of News24 blatantly lying to their readers and knowing that they haven't done enough research, but then still putting it on a disinformation article on News24 when they haven't had all the facts themselves. So how much faith could you realistically have in News24, Adriaan Basson and Andrew Thompson when they aren't willing to acknowledge firstly when they are wrong, secondly when they haven't done the research, and thirdly when they are found guilty then want to find other mechanisms in order to avoid it? And I know this because Adriaan Basson, in an opinion piece a few months ago, claimed that I asked for the killing of black people. I opened a case with the Press Ombudsman, and News24 has only tried to delay this process, come up with terrible examples of why they should not apologize, and ultimately trying to meet each other halfway. They refused because they do not want to apologize for clearly getting something wrong. And that is why I am also now still waiting for this outcome. And hopefully it will be in my favor so that I can just further illustrate how News24, when they realize that they said something that's wrong, aren't willing to backtrack and correct it. They would rather stand on that mis and disinformation because they don't want to be proven wrong. So ultimately, their entire campaign of attacking people according to them that are spreading dis and misinformation are actually the ones that are telling the truth. And News24, as confirmed by the Press Ombudsman, is in actual fact the ones that are spreading dis and misinformation. And that's pretty much all I got to say, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button. Please be sure to subscribe. Please be sure to share this video far and wide so that we can expose News24 for exactly who and what they are. And lastly, if you enjoy my content and you support this channel, then please consider becoming a member. You can do so by clicking the join button below. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Till later, cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.